Beyond.
What?
Yeah, you gotta get off your phone.
Beyond.
The dog is here.
Yeah, you gotta get off your phone.
Beyond.
The dog is here.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Beyond. My name is Max Scoville. I'm joined today by Brian Altano.
Hey, Beyond.
Andrew Goldfarb. Marty Sleva.
I think bringing the dog on was a great move.
And
That's really gonna.
currently licking Andrew in the face is my dog Peppers.
If you're not watching the video for the show, you should, because you get to see Goldfarb have his first kiss. Look at that. He's getting in there real good. Okay,
right.
it's the end of the year.
So,
Christmas is almost here, and
this
he's
is-
really getting in deep in the dog's mouth.
All right, this is going to be a fun episode. We're basically just going to look back at 2017 real quick. But first, our good friend James Duggan is here with a very special message. James, take it away.
Today's Podcast Beyond giveaway is presented by God of War: The Lost Pages. In celebration of God of War, we're giving away a $100 PlayStation Store gift card for your gaming enjoyment. Just go to ign.forumstack.com/forums/Podcast Beyond _sweepstakes for a chance to win. And let's be honest, if you can remember that URL, you deserve to win. Check out the God of War podcast, The Lost Pages of Norse Myth, on iTunes and Google Play for official game lore and in-depth interviews with Santa Monica Studio. A new episode is available each month leading up to God of War's release. Back to you, Max.
Thank you, James. That was very nice. Now let's get into things. It's 2017. It's almost over.
I want to. Can we rank the months?
No.
Top 12
That
months.
takes way too much work.
Top 12 months?
Like for PlayStation?
No, just in general.
Just
Oh,
I like November a lot.
November's an okay. No, actually, wait, no. November sucks.
Oh, never mind.
It's a
I'm
very
wrong.
bad one.
Why?
Oh,
You got Thanksgiving. You got pumpkin pie.
it's right between pumpkins and Santa Claus.
It's fine. You don't have to go to school. You're 30.
I mean, that's true. That's true. I don't know. I just don't like November that much.
It's a good
I
one.
look forward to November.
What is
It's
it?
when fall begins. I
Isn't
like
it?
fall.
It's your birthday.
Yeah. I mean, in spite of that, I think it's a testament to how crappy November is that my birthday's in it.
Thanksgiving, your birthday.
Pepper's got his hair on my straw.
Election
I'm allergic
day?
to the hair, so this is gonna be bad.
So anyway, the point of the show was to talk about PlayStation games.
Black Friday for all the hottest sales.
Look at all of the hair
best
on the
deals.
table.
It's a dog. What do you want?
I think we should start in January.
That's
a great idea.
You got any more great ideas?
I think we should start in January.
You should open up a calendar business, Marty. What a novel approach.
January had all
to
sorts
years.
of really cool things. I think my two favorite things were Gravity Rush 2
Yeah.
and Resident Evil 7, especially the scary one in VR that I didn't like to play because it was too scary for me.
Yeah, this was a pretty awesome way to start the year. A couple years ago, there was basically a quiet time of year. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So this was really cool to sort of come into the new year and put on our VR hats and piss our pants.
And just like
way to ring in the new year.
like Resident Evil 7 was such a question mark of like what, like, because Resident Evil 5 and 6 totally lost the way. Like I forgot what Resident Evil was, and part of that is Resident Evil 4's fault and the success of that, because Resident Evil 4 is incredible, but it totally changed what that series is. But I'm so happy that Resident Evil 7 came along, and the first 2/3 of Resident Evil 7 were
It's
awesome.
Such a fascinating franchise, because after 7, I sort of went on a kick again and played through a bunch of the old ones, and I played through Remake and 4, and then I got a little bit into 0 before realizing that I hate the first third of that game, and then like the rest of it. But that's a franchise that split into like 3 separate universes, and now it's a first-person VR shooter, sort of.
I mean, this is like as close to a reboot as we're probably going to get with that series.
Oh, 100%. The beginning of that game, you wouldn't even know it was a Resident Evil game. And like, I think it's especially cool that they have supported it until what, like 2 months ago there was still DLC coming?
Literally came out a week ago.
I mean,
yeah.
we all played demos for Resident Evil 7 at events for like a year without
we didn't
knowing
realize that kitchen demo.
Yeah, the kitchen demo for PSVR. We had no idea what that even was.
Yeah.
And it turns out we were playing like a weird slight vertical slice of what Resident Evil 7 ended up being.
Yeah.
I called it a first-person shooter. It's really not. I mean, it is in a very minimalist sort of way. But it brings back the sort of item and ammo conservation. It brings back item boxes. It brings back, I would say, the terror that was missing in that franchise for a very long time. 4 is one of my favorite video games of all time. On some days, it is my favorite video game of all time. It brought the series in a direction that it never really landed back on again. 5 and 6 sort of lost the way.
Yeah, 6 isn't scary even a little bit. Like,
And then
it's straight
since
up an
then,
action
it's been
game.
the Revelations games.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sort of tangents.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people said, like, I like the survival elements of Resident Evil, and other people said, I like the action elements of Resident Evil. And this game really brought those together in a way I think that no other game has since 4. Even the Revelations and all that other stuff has tried to come close, but never really did. So I love this game. You know, we talk about a lot about how like the last third of this game is kind of a pain.
Yeah.
but I think it kind of loses its way then. But
yeah, I think once you get to the boat, yeah. But everything up to there, like in this, I don't know. It's playing through Resident Evil 7 in one sitting is like one of my favorite memories of this year.
Did you play through it in one sitting?
Yeah, Lon and I played it at the office until like 5 in the morning.
That sounds
God.
yeah, like a nightmare.
Yeah, it was great. And then we just got progressively more drunk. And so I associate also the end of that game with being really drunk.
Yeah, I honestly like. I'm just not a really big horror guy. You know, like I feel like I'll give it a spin one of these days. But like, I don't know. I love what it does with like space. Like we screwed around for a second for some Let's Play or something, but the fact that it commits to creating a believable environment, I think that's incredibly key to games. And it's kind of stupid how often that doesn't happen. Like it's just the difference between an environment and a level. I think, and that was a proper environment. That was a house that had like a sense of kind of space to it.
Yeah, and it feels designed like a house for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of, windy, cavernous video game nonsense in the basement.
Silly puzzle keys or whatever.
Yeah, of course, and that'll always be there. But
I don't know why the Hillbillies made such elaborate puzzles. Well, one of them's actually really smart. I think that was just
they didn't really have anything else to do. I don't know.
It's a good old agricultural pastime, the puzzle.
Look at that dude at the end of True Detective. He made some nonsense.
Like Carcosa.
Yeah.
Now shifting gears entirely, we're going to be jumping around a lot here. Gravity Rush 2.
Yeah.
I didn't even touch this game. Did you guys like? Did you?
Yeah.
I played a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Gorgeous and amazing. Like I love Gravity Rush 1, but this is just like this one. Like I care about the story. I think Kat is a great character. I actually never beat it. I really need to go back and do that.
That's me one of those. I think I'm going to play this over break because everything I did play from it is such a gorgeous addition to. Because this, the original one was made for Vita, whereas this is from the grounds up for PS4.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's such a bummer that it got not wasted on the Vita, but that it was kind of like that was one of those kind of like flagship titles for the Vita, and it introduced people to this universe. And then it always had that kind of like, I mean, they remastered it for PS4, the first one, but this was a sequel to a game that not a lot of people played initially because it was for Vita. So,
yeah. I'm worried because, clearly this game didn't sell super well, so I'm worried that this is sort of the end of the series.
Yeah, you kind of
might be.
wonder what's
I hope it has a long tail. Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping. I would love to see Japan Studio kind of give it one last try and maybe do.
Sure.
I don't know. Like I even think that you could do such a cool VR experience just in that world.
Well, and I mean, we'll go into more of it, but like this year was huge for Japan Studios as a whole. I mean, starting even at the very end of last year with Last Guardian, and then working through Gravity Rush 2, and then other games we'll play later. And then the last January thing, Max, was Yakuza
this
Zero.
is definitely one of my games of the year. I'm actually torn between which of the Yakuza games I played. Yakuza Zero is the one that is sort of the full prequel, set in the 1980s, and introduces you kind of these characters. If you've been playing the series for a while, you're not getting introduced, but it's kind of that whole like flashback approach. I completely fell in love with this game. I wasn't sure what to expect. People were like, "Hey, it's really goofy. There's a lot of like funny side quests. There's strange mini games. It just overall has a very kind of like." I mean, I immediately was like, this is like everything I sort of love about Metal Gear and The Witcher, and it's all like set in 80s Tokyo. So like that felt like a game kind of made for me.
Yeah.
Is this the one we did a Let's Play of?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, because it's one of my favorite Let's Plays of the year because it felt like, I don't know, it felt like my son was showing me something he really loved.
What I love is that there's this. I mean, I think Yakuza was a huge thing this year, and I think next year it's going to kind of continue to get people on board because they're doing 6 and Kiwami 2. Both of those are going to be in like a new engine. But this year was like Sega was kind of like, screw it, let's just get it out there. Let's put this out into the world for people to play. And I don't know, Zero is so completely over the top, and it is the 80s, and like you hit people and money literally flies out of them. Like it's so completely like just bonkers. But there's like a cool story there. So yeah, we'll talk about Kiwami in a second when that came out, 6 months afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, Yakuza has such a unique humor to it. Like it is so like I haven't played either one of them, but watching clips, I'm like, how is this a real game?
It's also so earnest.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much like really weirdly heartfelt stuff in there where you're like, this is so dumb, but I totally care.
How come we never got an Ernest game?
Ernest goes to Japan.
The importance of being earnest.
Jim Varney hated games. He was not a fan.
Yeah.
He didn't want to see that.
I
have no idea.
Yeah, were any of his properties ever in a game?
No, I think there was like an Ernest doll for a
They
second.
make Beverly Hills Billies for Super Nintendo.
Did they? I feel like they
No,
did.
I made that up.
Okay.
That sounds like it would absolutely have been a thing.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to February, one of the biggest games of the year, just kind of right out the gate, was Horizon Zero Dawn, which is kind of
What
insane.
a good game.
It feels like it should have been like a November game.
Also, that feels like it was several years ago and not
Dude, right?
10 months ago.
When that game came out, like it felt like a whole different year because that was that was pre-Switch. That was pre so much stuff that happened, and I think the fact that we still talk about it and the fact that it's very much a part of the game of the year conversation proves how impactful it is.
Well, and it's going to remain probably the one of the best looking games of this generation.
Yeah.
So by the time this episode goes up, we'll give out our Game of the Year awards, and it won for best technical achievement. Like we split the art category into two things, and so I think Cuphead took art direction, whereas this took sort of just technical
graphics.
I mean, that game and Zelda in the same 2 weeks. Was it week? It was
literal week.
It was kind of nuts. Those games, looking at both of those, I'm like, why would you make those? Because you have to top them.
Yeah.
Like they they kind of painted themselves into a corner. Like what is Guerrilla going to do next after this?
Well, that's sort of like the kind of diminishing returns of the video game industry in general, right? Like we're constantly surpassing the last achievement that just happened, to a point where it's almost impossible to say how where the edge of this is, right? This could go on forever. I think what was so special about this game, and I truly deeply adore this game. Like I have such a fond connection with this world and the 50 hours I spent in it. And I got very lucky in that the second I finished it, I came into work and Caleb, one of our producers here, was like, "Hey, do you want to sit down for an hour and do a Let's Play with the two lead designers and creators of the studio and everything like that, and just like pick their brain and fight dinosaurs for an hour?" And we just did this hour-long Let's Play, which is still somewhere you can find, hopefully. I don't even know how to find anything on IGN personally. I've been here for 8 years.
It's still somewhere you can find, just hopefully.
Google, I just don't even. It's not. But no, I got to sit down with them and talk to them for like an hour, and then I saw them again at the Game Awards, and it was just like, I saw their game on stage, and it's such an incredible technical achievement. It's such an artistic achievement. It is also, like, from a PlayStation fan perspective, so stunning, because I thought for the longest time the PS4 is in this incredible powerhouse of graphics and sound and just beautiful art that can be put into one package. And Naughty Dog were the kings and queens of that for the longest time. And the way that their games are sort of set up, it's a lot more driven narratively and through sort of funneled through these smaller environments, and we got to see things open up a little more with Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. But Horizon is a massive world.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, it's astounding that you walk into this space and they sort of gatekeep the fast travel from you for a very long time, purposefully. And I asked them about that. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I wanted to go everywhere. And they're like, because we made a cool thing. We want you to see it.
Yeah.
You know, we want you to walk around and like stop and like smell the coffee. You know, like look at this world. Look at these flowers. Look at these trees.
Stop and smell the coffee.
Yeah.
Weird.
You never heard that?
No.
No, because it's not real.
It's also there's no coffee.
You got to stop and smell the coffee.
No,
man.
you have to stop and collect the mug so you can unlock the power armor.
Stop and smell the coffee.
I
This also,
think it's. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say this game also took Guerrilla from a well-liked developer to a developer that we're going to now look forward to their games in the same breath as FromSoft or Naughty Dog or Rockstar. Like they are that now.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
totally
like
agree.
they're part of that
pedigree.
Sony portfolio that I think PlayStation fans know them very well. But like Killzone was sort of one of those franchises that like everyone talked about, everyone knew what it was. That I don't think there were like as many Killzone fans in this office, certainly, as there are now Horizon fans.
Yeah.
You know? Like I feel like it's a much more palatable sort of mainstream game. Also, it's really exciting because that game is gorgeous and is like a technical masterpiece, and that engine is going to power Kojima's game.
Yeah.
And that, you know, Decima could be this new incredible frontier for PlayStation games.
Yeah, I hope so.
I completely agree with you, Marty, that these guys are now, Guerrilla is now a AAA dev on the same level as Rockstar or
Naughty Dog.
or Naughty Dog or anybody like that. And I think like we will all be watching what they do next. And I think that like it's sort of their talent with this game and their pedigree crescendoed with the sales of the PS4, which also made this like a dominant sales hit. Like with Killzone, it was sort of a fan favorite for a while, and it sold pretty well. But like it's kind of tied to PS3, and the early PS3 years were kind of rocky sales wise.
And Shadowfall it's such a launch title. It is a launch title in every way. You know.
It's funny though, because to me, Killzone was always you can make a lot of arguments, and this generation, it's clear that gaming portfolio wise, that Sony has a better portfolio than Microsoft.
Yeah,
just in terms of exclusive and first parties. But my thing with Killzone was always like, as someone who loved Xbox and 360, I'm always like, why would I play this if I could go play Halo?
Right.
Like it was just always that thing.
That's
and
what I was gonna
that
say,
was
yeah.
the like. It was always a notch below that. Whereas Horizon is among the greatest open world games ever made.
Yes. Totally.
I mean, Horizon is, without hesitation, the best looking game I've played on a console.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, I remember playing, I think for a second it was Uncharted 4, and looking at that and being like, this has incredible amounts of detail. And, you know, it's an Uncharted game. It's fairly linear, and, like, the AI for enemies is, like, they're going to throw grenades at you and shoot at you, but there's not any sense of, like, this is a living world.
Yeah.
And then you jump in Horizon, and it looks the same. and then there's like, I don't know, crocodiles trying to like fight these antelopes or whatever,
Yeah.
and there's just people walking around, and every blade of grass is incredible, and then there's a photo mode on top of it.
And it looks
insane.
It looks good on a launch PS4, and then it looks next world on a PS4 Pro on a 4K TV.
It's also, at the end of the day, it's a video game, and it kind of knows it, right? Like, you walk around that world, and it's about collecting stuff and upgrading and hunting and
But
gathering.
it doesn't waste your time. Like,
No.
it's also like, you know, just as like an RPG nerd, like that's a game that really respects like when you're doing a side quest specifically to mine something, like it makes sure that like you're getting what you need out of it. You know, it's not a game where you feel like you're grinding and wasting your time. You're grinding with a purpose.
And when you pull back on that map, I mean, it's basically Super Mario World. Like, it's like there's like a underwater area, or there's like a water area, there's a fire area, there's like a, you know, like there's a basically a desert, and there's a snow area, and they all sort of they'll blend into each other. It doesn't really matter. Like, there's no actual you know, geographical place in the universe where that would make any sense at all. But who cares? You know, it's fun.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, other end of the spectrum entirely, Night in the Woods. This is one of my favorite games. I think that, this is like this and Yakuza. This is on this list for sure. This is weird little kind of two-dimensional adventure platforming game. You play as a cat who is home from college in a world full of animals, and it's got this incredibly sort of dark, like almost like Daniel Clow's Ghost World meets Richard Scarry kind of feel to it. That is a substantial game too. Like, there's a solid story in there.
Yeah, and this is definitely one of those games I need to play through and finish over break. But everyone who played it says it does that thing where if Life is Strange sort of dropped the ball on how on sounding like how teenagers or people in their early 20s, disenfranchised kids sound, like this game nails it.
Yeah,
despite the fact he plays animals.
I honestly, it's funny. Everyone was kind of applauding Hellblade, which did we get that on? Yeah, we got that on here. For being a game about mental illness. That was a game about like schizophrenia paired with Norse mythology, and I think my big issue with that is that if you screw up one of them, you can blame it on the other. Like if you don't quite nail schizophrenia, we're like, well, it's also about myths, so it's not entirely real. And if you screw up the Norse mythology, you're like, well, she's also schizophrenic. In the case of Night in the Woods, yeah, it's a bunch of cartoon animals running around, but I feel like it tackles depression and anxiety and just trying to cope with real life and coming into adulthood, and it does it in a way that's very grounded. You know, it's like, oh, your parents are having money troubles. There's an immediate kind of relatability there. It's not masked in this sort of fantastical approach. It feels, and it also I love that it's got all this stuff in there, but it's not like first and foremost like this is a game about being sad. It's kind of like this is a game about. It's about the game is the game. It's a game about animals doing stuff and running around.
Yeah, despite the fact there's no human beings, it's a game about human beings.
Yeah, which is very strange, but highly recommend that to everybody. Moving on to March, Nier Automata.
Speaking of games about human beings that aren't about human beings, Nier is definitely one of those games that I overlooked when it first came out, and then I played through the A ending and was like, I don't really get what people are talking about this game. But then you realize that I don't even know why they do the A ending thing, because it's like, well, the game's, if you stop after the A ending, that's being like, I finished Zelda. And it's like, well, you beat 2 of the
It doesn't even sound like those are endings. Like they're called endings as almost like a wink and a nod or something. But it sounds like pretty much.
But it's such unbridled and fearless creativity and willingness to do weird fourth wall breaking things, and like really like carrying the sort of that torch that Kojima had with Metal Gear, and while in the interim, obviously we'll get with Death Stranding afterwards, but the game is rough around the edges. I don't like the combat. I think the game's sort of ugly, and the open world can be a little bit boring and bland, but what it does narratively and with the characters, and especially the music in this game, which is my favorite soundtrack of the year, this is one of those things, if you haven't played, again, go back. You could probably get this for like $20 or $30, and it's some of the most sort of out there, out of left field ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best games ever are the ones that have something between, like kind of in the margins between the easily describable stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
The fact that it's like you're like, oh, I don't really love the world, and it's kind of rough around the edges, and you know, there's all these things that sound like major disqualifiers, but clearly there's something special there for how much
totally
about it.
It's totally one of those games. I'm so glad I didn't have to review this and put a score. Like it's games like this where I hate putting a score on it because I'm like, yeah, the technical stuff that make a game, I'm like, it's not great, but those sort of intangible things, it does so incredibly well.
I have to go back and play it. Like that sounds so up my alley.
Yeah. Now you might remember this one.
God,
Mass Effect Andromeda.
Isn't that's when I wrote that down? I was like, that was this year.
I can't believe that that was this year.
It's also crazy to think about like that is on the same engine as Battlefront 2, which looks night and day better. Like
and everyone truly deeply loved both of those games. There was no backlash at all, and EA's had a wonderful year.
I put that on here just sort of to be this is like indicative of this is EA as a whole, between the Mass Effect backlash, the fact that franchise is now on hiatus, the massive turnover at BioWare, which led to Corey Hudson coming back, which is interesting because he came up with the idea for Anthem and then left and then came back and was like, well, now we're doing Anthem.
Yeah.
There was also that controversy in FIFA where they made the ball gigantic by accident.
It was so big.
For 2 whole months, it wouldn't fit in the goal.
And it had its own gravity.
Yeah. And to shrink it, you had to throw money at it. That's not real. Don't write it.
But yeah, I feel like the lone, like, sort of the bright spots that everyone is looking at EA this year, you know, and then you have Visceral closing and Battlefront and everything are at E3, everyone's seeing Anthem, and then also at E3 and then again at the Game Awards was A Way Out. Yeah. So I feel like if 2017 was EA getting knocked on the jaw a couple times, at least 2018 and beyond looks promising. And
yeah, let's hope so. I feel like we're not going to see Anthem for quite some time.
I definitely do not think that's.
I especially think they need to be so careful with the microtransactions. In that game.
I think that they probably had this like rock solid, completely insane, money hungry plan going into Anthem, and right now they're gutting all of it.
Yeah, I mean,
they were probably like that. That was probably like, oh, you can change the seasons by paying for it. And they're like, all of a sudden, like, we got to stop. We got to rein this in.
Well, especially if this is their Destiny game, which is their game as a service. They're going to release Anthem and support it for 3 years.
Yeah.
I think 2018 because I assume we're going to start sunsetting this generation in the next couple of years, right? Like we're getting long in the tooth. So 2018 is when everyone is going to make that last ditch Destiny-like game, you know? And it's like we're definitely going to start seeing it from every single publisher. I'm so fascinated to see how EA specifically handles it now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really interested in this. I couldn't tell you, like, I'm not a business person, but I couldn't tell you if we'll ever see the Mass Effect franchise again.
I think it was incredibly stupid of them to release this so close to Mass Effect 3. Like, I feel like they should have put out something else, a new thing. I know that obviously there's like, what is it, brand recognition or whatever. But yeah, like after Mass Effect 3, which was I feel like the last time we had a backlash against EA on the scale of Battlefront 2.
But that was, what, 5 years ago?
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just never felt... It never felt like it was on the scale. Like I feel like this should have been.
Did Casey Hudson come back for this game?
No, he came back for Anthem
afterwards.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. I mean, I love that guy, and I'm really interested to see what he does next. I think he's a smart dude, and I think he runs a great studio. But like the thing is, I don't know what the value to one of these brands is. And it's the same thing. We'll talk about Battlefront later, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if you just retire that name. Like, I feel like it's just kind of haunted at this point.
I mean, I think why it's going to be a fascinating year for BioWare no matter what, because like if you look at like the last Dragon Age game won our game of the year, you know, and Mass Effect is one of the most revered franchises of last gen. This generation, you know, the heads of the company left, most of the creative forces left.
BioWare Montreal got folded into Motive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
crazy,
you talk about EA's bad year, but like BioWare specifically, it's all over the place. So I'm really curious to see what Anthem does for them, because that and whatever the next Dragon Age is, if those do really well, maybe we do see Mass Effect again. If those games don't do well, maybe we don't see BioWare again. It's a really fascinating couple of years.
I mean, I worry about BioWare under EA. I think that EA frequently is like, what's hot right now? We'll buy it. And then they do that, and then they want to turn it into something that isn't what that's for. Like BioWare makes RPGs. Like that's their forte.
Well, it feels like EA, I mean, people always say like EA is running a monopoly, but I feel like they play Monopoly like that dude who plays Monopoly with you, who just buys one of the pieces of the set you already have two of, so that you can't complete it. Yeah. And you're like,
yeah,
well,
I mean,
are you going to do anything with that? And he's like, well, no, but now you can't have it. And I'm like, well, what the like, give it away then. Do something with it.
Anyway, on the subject of money, we're going to take a real quick word from our sponsor. James Duggan, take it away.
Today's Podcast Beyond giveaway is presented by the companion God of War podcast, The Lost Pages of Norse Myth. Each month, hear new official lore on creatures, weapons, realms, and in-depth interviews with Santa Monica Studio. Check out a quick preview from Episode 1, Odin and the Knowledge Keeper. And be sure to go to ign.formstack.com/forms/podcastbeyond_sweepstakes for a chance to win a $100 PlayStation Store gift card.
Disastrous visions. She saw the worlds plunge into a bitter 3-year winter. She saw the sky split, and the realms began to tremble and quake. She saw a horrible terror emerge with a flaming sword and an enormous, beastly wolf rampaging across the countryside as he grew to consume the very sun. She saw the deadliest of monsters and the worst of gods at each other's throats. And, in the events leading up to it all, she also saw a pale, white ghost from a distant land and his young son, somehow intertwined in this terrible prophecy.
Thank Thank you, James.
That was emotional.
Very nice. I thought he did a good job there. April, that's a month when a game called Persona 5 came out. Andrew, look at your face. You're so excited. All right, talk about Persona 5.
So what happened in May?
Shut up. I love Persona 5 so much. That's extraordinarily special game. I think, man, from the music to the world to the characters, the story, I can't wait to go back to that game, which is insane because I've already played it 5 times.
So to backtrack real quick, I always want to point this out because I think people don't really understand the true connection you have to this franchise, but you played through this game in Japanese first. So when you come out and you're like, the story and the characters, that's all well and good. You didn't truly know what those were.
That's why it speaks to the art direction,
yeah,
the UI and the music, because all of those things, like just the design of that world, like the UI in that game, like the UI is not a sexy thing to talk about. We don't bring it up ever, but
I think UI is sexy.
When you navigate through the menus in that game,
lots of stuff sexy about you and I.
That was where I was going for.
Yeah.
That was where I
think it's gonna be a UTI if you guys keep this going.
Oh no! Wait, a urinary tract infection?
What?
What? Why would
Persona 5?
Persona?
No, I mean that game. Just visually, the transitions, the menus, the world, every new city you come to, the distinct way that bosses look. It is a visual marvel. The music is incredible, and all that's before you even add in the story.
Right.
I just love it, top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm so glad more people are playing it now. Like Jonathan and Barrett are playing through it. We can talk to them about it.
Yeah,
and even like when Pear started it, he fell in love with it. Sam really liked it. Like one by one, people in the office who rolled their eyes at it actually kind of got into it. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, there's a reason we're talking about it so much. It's a really good game.
That was my game of the year.
Did you vote for it for game? Oh,
yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another one of my favorites that came out in April. Unfortunately, I feel like it just was that April? I thought that was June.
Who knows? There's really no way of knowing.
No one knows. Anyway, Little Nightmares, which was kind of the inside limbo from Bandai Namco.
Yeah.
Weird. I mean, they published it, but it was like a weird little, I think Swedish.
Yeah.
Love this game. We talked about it a bunch on here, but it has this kind of just very, very bleak, kind of dark children's book aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
That's just. It's a scary platformer, but it's like not in that kind of beat you over the head Resident Evil way kind of horror.
Yeah.
It feels like some kind of, I don't know, primordial children's Little Nightmares. That's a perfect
it totally feels like a 3-hour Eastern European interactive fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
Like a dark, bleak. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And I love the fact that it's 3 hours. I love how it visually pulls so much from Miyazaki's work, especially Spirited Away.
Yeah, without just ripping off the aesthetic though.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It could have very easily been like, it's Japanese inspired and there's bits of it there.
It's so messed up. I love how they don't it doesn't beat you over the head with the story. It's like, this is a world. Here are some tone pieces.
Yeah, there's a story there. Figure it out. Yeah.
Like Playdead. Yeah.
Anyway, then in May we got Prey, which rhymes. Yay!
The reason we added Prey to this list is kind of in that Mass Effect way. I'm like, oh yeah, like as Prey, Bethesda had this really incredible critical year and not a great commercial year. Like I don't think any of their games really did super well.
No, they didn't.
No,
and like we'll get down to Evil Within and Wolfenstein and games that people really really love, especially in this office, but. Man, Prey was just kind of I remember that reveal trailer. Like, I remember the years and years of rumors leading up to this game, and we talked about it for so long, and then
re-reveal it at E3 2016.
If we made a list of 5 games you'll never believe came out in 2017, Prey would be on there.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, it's a testament to how good this game was, or this year was for games. There was so much stuff that there's stuff on here that not all of us have
I've
played.
said it in a couple shows, like 2017, the year was so good that just being good didn't cut it.
Yeah.
Like being good.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing of like games get buried by Horizon and Zelda because those are like games of the generation caliber games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Prey also suffered from being this weird, like, resurrected reboot of a sequel to a 3D Realms game.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
It didn't have anything to do with Prey.
It had nothing to do with it. It was almost kind of, I feel like it was almost like detrimental to the success
Prey
of it.
itself didn't have like, no one's like, oh
Exactly.
man, Prey.
When that was the whole thing with Prey 2, like when they announced Prey 2, which was like E3 2011 or something, like
alongside Skyrim.
Yeah, exactly. Like that game, it started this really cool like airplane sequence, and it looked nothing like the original Prey, and it was this really cool departure. But at the time, great. That's a really cool way to reinvent a franchise. 6 years later, totally just make it a new IP. Like at that point, I totally agree with you. I don't know at that point what the Prey name gave it really.
Going in, we were calling it Prey 2. It's not Prey 2. It's not a sequel at all.
Yeah.
Doesn't have anything to do with the Native American spiritual realm like the original Prey.
Yeah,
Right.
that had those weird like butthole doors, I think.
Oh man, some people think of them as vagina doors.
Vagina doors. Okay.
I believe this didn't sell more.
All right. Anyway, and then in June we got E3. A lot of
Game of
things
the year,
got announced.
E3.
A lot of things got shown off.
Yeah, Sony's definitely they did a lot of. Hey, remember those games last year? Well, here they are again. But which is fine because those are the games we're going to be playing next year.
That was also once that press conference happened, they kind of began like they missed out on Gamescom this year, but they kind of began an arc that led to Tokyo Game Show and Paris Games Week and PSX. Like that was sort of Sony had a really busy second half of the year in terms of just like talking about games, but not an especially busy release year. So
yeah, no, you're totally right. They got a lot of their big first party stuff or like sort of exclusive stuff out in the first half. In the second half of the year, they're kind of victory lapping a little bit, which is good.
Which was fine because they also announced that they hit the 70 million mark on PS4, which means it's going to crack the 100 million mark, which is
which no one
rarefied atmosphere.
Do you remember in 2013 when there were all those articles about how console gaming was dead and the systems are going to flop and
I'm sure there'll be. We'll get those 2 years from now when the PS5 and the Xbox
100%
2 are coming.
All those hot takes from dumb idiots.
A lot of times we're those dumb.
Gaming is dead. No, it's not. You're stupid. That's all that happened.
Look at the evolution of like home video. I feel like that's kind of a good comparison to where games are. Is that like there's a generation that like I don't know, like maybe our parents or something who never had. Like you never had a Super 8 projector. Like that wasn't a thing you'd get because you're like, I'll go to the movies to watch movies or I'll see something on TV. Like who cares? And then suddenly VCRs happen and then suddenly DVD players happen and then suddenly
Susan.
You stream everything on your it's streaming on Netflix or whatever. But with games, it was like we're a generation that grew up with the NES and the Super NES and the Sega Genesis and PlayStation and all that. And it went from being like here's like a cool toy to like, oh, here's a thing that is like the source of your entertainment to now it's like sort of this all-in-one, all-purpose centerpiece to your entertainment center.
And it's also because I think Sony is really smart at riding and capitalizing off of the wave of tech that's happening outside of the gaming industry. And we saw it with Black Friday this year. They had record sales. They outsold every other video game system, which I actually didn't think was going to happen with the Switch out there because it's just killing it too. But I think that like people were looking at like this is the time to buy a 4K TV. They bought a bunch of pros and they jumped in. I think they're doing it now, and it's the same thing we saw with Blu-ray, with DVDs back with the PS2. You know, for the PS1, I don't know if people use that for a CD player, but maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, kind of.
That's kind of its gimmick.
Yeah.
But
was Suddenly Susan Brooke Shields?
Why are we're not talking about Suddenly Susan?
Brooke Shields?
I think that was Brooke Shields.
For God's sake.
What
Okay.
happened to Brooke Shields? What
all right. That's enough.
Ages
anyway,
of Brooke Shields.
All right. In June, we also got the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess speaking of that, like you said, growing up on those consoles, this was Sony's big, like, hey, remember Crash? Well, he's back. And it sold incredibly well. And it hit this nostalgic spot for people who maybe a little bit younger than us, but like the sort of the 25-year-olds in the office, like, ate this game up.
Also, like, this was the, Spyro had been gone for so long, Crash had been gone for so long, and Spyro came back in Skylanders, which is not what I think the Spyro fans wanted.
I feel like we're going to get a Spyro thing like next year.
Yeah.
Now I agree with you, but when that happened, when Spyro came back in Skylanders, everyone's like, oh, Activision does not care about these brands, and you were never going to see a core game in these franchises, and I feel like this trilogy, which sold incredibly well and which people really love, proved people still want that. Well, I agree. Now I think we will see a Spyro game. We will see a Crash game.
They introduced the conversation to this game in a very smart way. One meaning the sort of the PlayStation press conference where you saw the shadow of him. And two, the teaser level thing that was playable in Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Like having this
that's a good point.
having the two main characters of that franchise. Well, 2 out of 3 of the main characters of that franchise. I don't know where Sully was. Maybe he was downstairs doing dishes. To sit down in front of their TV and sort of be like, hey, remember that old game? Like, let's play it. And they're kind of just hanging out. Like, that was us, right? As old people sitting down on the couch being like, oh yeah, I still have like cherished memories of this game. And then so to play that was such an Easter egg. The entire office here, we were flipping out when we saw someone playing that. Because we were like, oh my God, you can play Crash Bandicoot and Uncharted 4. And then they put the entire trilogy out. Yeah. And I think people felt that same connection. I mean, when you sit down and actually play, I think you realize a lot of these games don't age as well as you want them
especially
to.
part 1.
But they made them look really good. And I think that's I think they're fun to go back to.
We should bring up that they also gave Crash a weird voice in the Skylanders show on Netflix.
Oh, crikey!
It's not.
Yeah,
I don't like that at all.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be like, ouch.
I want to see Crash Team Racing HD come back next year.
I was actually thinking about this between Mario Odyssey and Mario Kart and just sort of like, I don't know, family-friendly kids games being really huge on the Switch. I wonder if we're going to see some old like mascot platformers get the remastering treatment or like the updated thing. Like, are we going to see a new Spyro game?
Yeah. I really hope.
I'm all for that. Yeah,
It makes me very happy to see Activision playing nice. I think a lot of like we've seen so many remasters for so long that felt like cash grabs. This one felt like it was for the fans and that they listened.
This was a crash grab
made for the right reason.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me. How's it going?
Cash Bandicoot.
If we get like a resurgence of like the kart genre and the 3D platforming genre at the same time, we've sort of seen that trickle in here and there. Yeah. We just saw Hat in Time. Ukulele was earlier this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I
Not
don't
even on our list. I mean, there's so much. There were so many games.
The man I don't want to come back is Glover. I don't want him to come back. I don't like that.
I mean,
hand.
Bubsy came back, so you never
I don't
know.
want that hand.
You don't want-
to come
you don't
back.
want Glover
I
coming
got some
back?
I don't
bad
want
news
Glover.
that Atlanta got renewed for another season.
I'm excited for
He's
that.
Gonna be playing
And
the Spider-Man.
He's playing Lundo.
He's going to be playing the voice of Deadpool.
Playing
and he's
Anne
gonna
Orlando.
You know where
Yes.
Glover is now? He's on the box of Hamburger Helper. Doing a good high five.
Also known as Somebody
on,
Kill Me.
wait.
He did put on weight because he's been helped by hamburgers.
Is he just this stuff? Did they just put hamburger meat inside of his bottom?
Can we not
Wait,
talk
you
about
like how do
this?
you make hamburger helpers?
So how do you make the
It's
hand?
basically just like a freeze-dried packet of like cheese powder, and then it comes with pasta, and you provide your own meat. But the
then-
problem is, if you're at the store buying ground beef, you should probably be buying some other stuff.
Does it also come with my wife left me?
She was never there to begin with, so trick question.
Hamburger help me. Hamburger cry for helper. All right. Anyway, enough about Hamburger Helper. Why do we do this show? In July, we got Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age.
Yay!
Which was their big old overhaul remaster, right?
Yeah, and they oh my god, Final Fantasy 12 was so good. I'm so happy this game came back, and that sort of celebration of Ivalice, which was the Final Fantasy Tactics world, which we see is coming back in Final Fantasy 14 in terms of like a giant expansion set in Ivalice, which I think is really cool. And I don't know, because obviously 2016 was the year that we finally got Final Fantasy 15, and then clearly 15 had support not only through this year but through next year, which is insane.
Yep.
Plus the weird mobile version they're making.
Mobile, yeah, exactly.
That's
and then
so nuts.
Yeah.
They're
The
like,
fact that
it's
that
not
game-
like a bubble tapper. It's like we just remade 15 with
It's so
cutesies.
cool.
Yeah.
The fact that
It's
game keeps
mind-blowing.
growing and they're I mean, like it sounds like they made their money back. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty damn awesome.
yeah,
I mean, they're kicking around the whole like there's what is it like comrades mode where it's like multiplayer.
multiplayer, yeah.
Well, and they also episode Ignis just came out, but they've strongly hinted there's essentially going to be a whole other year of content for that game.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like we'll get a second
Plus
season pass.
the VR fishing tie-in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very curious when we're going to get a Final Fantasy 16 announcement. I mean,
Uh,
we have to
yeah.
wait for Kingdom Hearts is
I
coming?
think they would be insane to announce that before we get Kingdom Hearts
And
or
FF7 remake and-
yeah.
I mean, this is the company that announced 14 before releasing 13, right?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
13 wasn't even out yet, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
Yep.
well, 2 ahead from now is another one, friends."
This is a company that made a game called 10-2. So they count like kindergartners.
Yeah, they number
Yeah.
things like a
11
child.
and a half.
I'm really
I'm
curious to
6
see,
3/4, and I'm a full man dad.
seeing on how they're leaning into 15 and how much more is coming. I do kind of wonder if we'll get a 15-2 as opposed to a 16.
Yeah, I think
30.
they're really committing to that universe. I like it though. I like that car. It's got monster truck tires. It can fly. It's good times.
That's
Heck yeah.
I don't like the other people's clothes in that game. To be honest with you, not good.
I think you can change it so they're wearing parkas and they just look like frat boys.
You
Yeah,
can
I'm
make it
not
so
a fan.
glad if you max out the Gladio DLC, he doesn't have to wear a shirt. But you didn't know that?
Ooh,
that-
that's a different story.
like a naked Link.
That's a huge change from him having a shirt that's just open the whole time.
But I
All right.
pay $60, spend 200 hours with the shirtless man fighting the crabs.
Those crabs are they put up a fight. Anyway, in August we got Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which I think is my second favorite Uncharted game.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's
Yeah.
up there with Uncharted 2. It's fantastic.
I agree.
I love that they prove that you don't need like Uncharted doesn't have to be about Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be about people who like each other.
Yeah, I will say the sore spot in this game for me was the open world area. I found it to be sort of vapid and empty and kind of missing something.
It's a little bit of a half measure, I think.
It is. It's close. It's weird because it was like coming out of like a game like Horizon to play that section, which just felt sort of like a sandbox with no sand. I wasn't a fan of that, but the core relationship in this game is some of the strongest that Naughty Dog has ever done. These two characters interacting is so cool. Like you can actually feel sort of the rise and fall and tension in their friendship, and then towards the end, like you genuinely feel like they grew together, which is awesome. And the world is gorgeous. The set pieces are awesome, albeit a little Uncharted 2-ish towards the
I
end.
don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think at this point, like this generation is, I mean, it's Sony's console generation.
Yeah.
They're on top here, and so there were a lot of people who probably didn't jump on the last Uncharted games. And Uncharted 2 is fantastic, but there's parts of it don't age so well. I love this because I think one of the worst things about Uncharted 4 was that it overstayed its welcome.
That's right. Yeah.
And like Lost Legacy was like it felt like a very sweet spot in terms of length. There was still multiplayer. There was still like there was multiplayer, wasn't there? I feel like
In what, Uncharted 4?
yes.
Lost
In
Legacy.
Uncharted 4, there was Lost Legacy. I think
Okay,
it was.
but
Yes, there
again, it
was.
was also it was like what, like $40? It felt like a very like experimental in a lot of good ways. I think the open world part was sort of a swing and a miss in terms of what they were trying to do.
Yeah, there was some backlash from fans about the price structure of this game because I think people thought it was like sort of a half measure, but I don't truly believe that. I mean, I would gladly pay $40 every year or two for an 8-hour Uncharted game.
That's the thing. I think the misconception came from it sounded like it was going to be DLC for 4, and then it became something much bigger than that, but people still thought of it as DLC for 4. And so they thought of it as I have to pay $40 for, you know, a small thing when really it's a game. It is a Uncharted game.
Yeah. I don't really know what to say about that, right? Like, I mean, yes, this is running on the Uncharted 4 engine. Yes, it probably reuses a couple of the leaves from the trees. It's a brand new story. There's 8 hours of dialogue.
You learn more about characters that we haven't seen in a while or only saw a little bit of in 4.
Yeah, this is a really cool game.
If this is if they're working on The Last of Us, and every 18 months we get a side story with different characters. If we get a Sully game or like a Young Sam game, I'm totally for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm totally for that whole kind of like, oh, it's number 3 or it's the 5th entry in this series. But I think we're also at a point where people don't really look at games like that. It's kind of like you're invested in the universe,
right?
And so having these sort of, I mean, if they put out like a really short one that's like, hey, it's $15, check it out. It's a very, I mean, we kind of got that with the Last of Us DLC. You know,
oh yeah,
like it's
Left Behind.
The idea of like, hey, here's like a small story in this world. You already know what you're getting into. You know, I think that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's just Naughty Dog showing off too. Yeah. Like they're just so great at characterization. The performances in the game are unbelievable. It's gorgeous again. Like their name being attached to something remains special.
Yeah.
And they are on such an insane streak of just really good games.
I know. Yeah. And their next game is going to be phenomenal. It's, you know, I cannot wait for more of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And I went from being like, we don't need a sequel to this game to sort of coming around to it because I think the trailers we've seen so far show an approach to that universe from a different angle than just the Joel and Ellie story. And that's kind of, if we're going to get more, that's what I want. So
I would love for them to keep up this trend of not even doing trailers, just show us scenes, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I went back and watched their PSX panel.
Right.
Again, just seeing like Troy and Ashley next to each other, I'm like, oh man,
I'm in.
Very, very excited for this.
Totally agree.
I spent most of August playing Yakuza Kiwami, which is the sort of modern hardware remake of the first Yakuza game, which I never played. I remember it coming out in 2002 or whenever and being like, what's this? The original game had like a very one of those weird like early 2000s star-studded voice casts where they were like, we've got all these celebrities and all this like American stuff to try to make it, you know, friendly, and it just, I don't think it really worked. And then Kiwami is just like, it's just fun as hell. I think I actually preferred this to Zero when I kind of stop and think about it, because it's like a little bit shorter, a little bit more linear, and it does still have all the weird side quests and stuff. Like I think I put, I think it was about 30 hours I put into this. And I had a really good time with it, and it was like, it introduced me to these characters in sort of where they're going to be for the rest of the series, you know, like the Zero was very kind of like wink and a nod kind of approach to prequels,
right.
But, yeah, I'm so incredibly excited for 6 and for Kiwami 2. Kiwami 2 is... So, Yakuza Kiwami and Zero are both on an engine that was made for PS3. So, we're not really getting proper PS4 versions of Yakuza until we get 6 and Kiwami 2 next year. So
really cool. I love that brand is kind of back with a vengeance. Like it's like every 6 months we get a Yakuza game now, which I mean I really need to dive into that series because hearing you talk
I think 6 is where I'm going to jump in.
Yeah. You know? I think 6 is going to be like just a kind of fresh start and everything.
Yeah.
I think he needs to go out. Marty, why don't you talk about Hellblade? I'm going to go let the dog do a dunk.
Yeah, I mean, Hellblade, we've talked about it ad nauseum on the show, but I think Hellblade is just one of those such like rare special games coming out this year that, you know, I wasn't really sure what to expect. Like, I'd always kind of liked Ninja Theory. I really liked DMC. I thought Heavenly Sword was interesting. I really like Enslaved. But I totally wasn't expecting to boot up this game and have the second credit be the mental health consultant.
Right.
And it wasn't like, I know Max sort of poo-poos it a lot and it's totally like valid criticism, but to me, like the way that Senua was handled and the way the sound worked in that game to put you in the mindset of someone who's actually schizophrenic, and the way that fed into the gameplay and the combat and the puzzle solving and like the fact that she's ultimately an unreliable narrator made for, you know, despite the fact that it's in Norse mythology and you literally fight hell, the demon hell, it was one of just the most like realistic, harrowing tales I've ever played in a game. And that lead performance, like she won Best Performer at the Game Awards, and she totally deserved it. Like she was cutting,
never acted. Even.
She was cutting trailers for them, and then all of a sudden she's like, "I'll be the stand-in for this character."
That was such
knocked it out of the park.
I think to me that was the best story that came out of the Game Awards, was that this woman won the best voice acting, and she was up against just titans in the industry, veterans who have been in some of the most, just special and incredible video game moments of all time. And she was like, "Hey, I was in the back, like just editing the trailer, and then they needed somebody, and then here I am. Thanks for having me. This is insane."
Yeah.
You know, and she's up there with Andy Serkis is like, "Here's an award."
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible. It's an incredible story.
Yeah.
And I think that like this game is proof that you can have a small team and can still pull off the sort of like the size of a AAA game,
totally,
without actually physically being that big.
100%.
I didn't connect with this game in the same way you guys did, but I appreciate the hell out of it for what it did for the people who did connect with it. I would never take that from them. I think that the idea that it sort of masqueraded as a AAA game while still being like so focused and singular is really special. It's also like a great reason to buy a surround sound system or a really good headset,
Yeah. And then also coming out that month was the second game about mental illness, Everybody's Golf.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just solitary golf, it was Everybody's Golf.
Full title is actually Everybody's Golf Crazy.
I feel like it's so easy to make fun of this game, but it's
so good.
Really smart and fun. It is like, there's something, I don't know, golf games are so funny because like I could not possibly care less about golf in real life. I don't care at all. But like growing up with Hot Shots Golf and Mario Golf, I always have just liked golf games. And I think this one, like, it's really fun. It's really smart, like in a 2017 way, just in terms of adding the online stuff and adding like the RPG boards and RPG elements. Exactly.
And that's the power of a great video game, right? Is capitalizing on the escapism of taking something that's mundane and boring in real life, golf, and making it really fun. I mean, like when you play a great video game and you walk around and you run errands and people lose crap and you help them find. My friend called me and he's like, "I lost my keys. Can you help me find them?" I'd be like, "No." But in a video game, some woman says that to me and I'm like, "Sure." And now I'm gonna go like collect 20 turtles and all this other crap in the meantime. Everybody's Golf takes a very boring, mundane sport, quote unquote, golf, and makes it really fun and goofy. Like Max and I did.
You're so
our favorite.
golf.
That was so much fun. It's not great. We did probably my favorite Let's Play of the year, where we made this small goblin.
I spent so much time creating like a perfect version of myself, and I was like, yes, I've unlocked the checkered Vans. I'll be wearing these on the green. And then you were like, yeah, but what if you were like a nightmare elf?
We made this short, squat little gnome, and he's blue, and he's just running around. He's just bumping into people's knees.
And that's the funny thing. Like every game has a character creator now, like almost literally every game. And this one is just so smart and fun. And like you can make things that are photorealistic, or you can make little scary blueberry goblins.
You don't even have to golf. There's other sports.
Everybody doesn't have to golf.
Yeah, don't they have fishing in there?
They have fishing. You can just drive around if you want to.
I do kind of wish that they didn't like hide everything behind the golf. I know that it is a game about golf, but I was like,
why would focus sports? Everybody's golf to the rapture.
I think by the end of August,
there it is.
We did learn that everybody is golf.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody's golf?
I love that. Yeah.
What's up, everybody's golf?
Oh, so here's a game that came out this year in September. We got Knack 2.
Hell yeah.
Oh, Knack. I think,
Can we say that this one game of the year?
Yeah, this is up after.
Knack 2, I think, was close. It is still not great, but I think they at least made a game this time. Like Knack 2 is totally, it's a fun, when it is $10 in the bargain bin, it is 100% worth it. I think it came out at totally the wrong time of year. It could not possibly have had more competition, but it's fun. I mean, they totally just made a fun. I think like if I had kids, this would totally be a game that I would sit down and play with a kid, because they do a really smart thing where there's different paths depending on. So like if you choose easy versus hard, like when you're playing on hard, you can see where the easy path would have been, and they're just like they make it a fun, easy way to play it at any age.
I mean this man will never really be the mascot they're looking for.
Yeah,
but there's something wonderful about him.
I kind of feel
whatever the Knack is.
I feel bad for not feel bad for Sony in that way, but it's a tough spot for Sony in that way, because like they're very obvious. Like there's so many popular kids and family games on Switch. Like obviously Nintendo is very good at that market. Where Sony, like that's just not really the crowd that gets a PS4.
Knack feels like when you're on a road trip with your family growing up, and like you stop at like a Roundy's or something, and they have their own mascots, and you sit down, and they're like, "We have a kids meal, and you get a toy prize pretzel plane," and you're like,
I don't want
"What
the
is
prize?
this man?" That's what Knack feels like. He's not a mascot, but it's not going away either.
Knack feels like the same thing that was sort of wrong with Killzone, where it wasn't so much this was a thing that anybody was like, I want to make this. I have an idea for a thing. It was more like, hey, they want us to make this. Right. How do we meet those demands?
It sort of checks the box, I think. I think they needed a character platformer. It's also fascinating the pedigree of people on that team who worked on so many incredible games in prior generations, not to mention Mark Cerny leading it up, who's like probably among the smartest minds in our entire industry by like a mile.
Oh yeah.
So it's
made
like
fun of you for sucking at Knack too.
Yeah, exactly. I think the pedigree behind this game, like I don't understand why this is the game they want to keep making, but I don't think it's impossible we see a Knack 3 someday.
I mean, it also has one of the bravest and most honest sex scenes ever put in a game.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
Yeah.
Also out in September, I don't know why we're just wasting air talking about Knack 2. Destiny 2 came out.
Yeah.
Destiny 2, huge game.
I was in love with Destiny 2 for 2 weeks, and it was just a great little tryst.
Called it.
And then I did the raid.
That was such a great time of the year for me. Everyone in the office was so into Destiny, and I was like, 2 weeks from now, we'll get all our friends back, and it'll be a good time.
Yeah.
Let's let them have it.
And I'm totally fine. And then everyone's mad at the game, and I just still look at it, and I'm like, you're that thing I had fun with in September for 2 weeks.
Isn't that great? Where you can kind of show up, do tourism for a little bit,
Yeah.
and leave, and then everyone's like, it's on fire, and you're like, oh, I left.
Oh, yeah. Destiny and I like broke up, but we're still friends. Like,
dude, the community turned in that game real fast. It's been fascinating watching Bungie sort of respond, and obviously just to plug, we have an entire show dedicated to Destiny.
Oh yeah, and if you're still a Destiny player and you're still angry, listen to Fireteam Chat, because despite the fact that it is a Destiny podcast, they have gotten very angry at that game.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Bungie's like making overtures to the community now, but it's
like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
It is a good reminder of how quickly the tide can turn, I think.
I think
almost like a Bungie.
Andrew, one thing that no one turned on, the Danganronpa also came out.
Oh yeah, Danganronpa is great. We nominated it for most innovative. I think it's an incredible point-and-click adventure game, visual novel. If you like murder mysteries, like that is those games, especially on Vita. This is like the one game I really put dozens of hours in on Vita this year.
You kind of really messed me up when you were like, I didn't play my PS4 at all for like a large. It was between.
It was like 4 months I haven't touched my PS4 because I played Vita and Switch, and it's crazy how the middle of the year.
You on this show, you fake fan. You don't have the play.
He has a Persona 5 Japanese trophy.
He has a passion. It's just for the Vita.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like end of the year, as I am now playing all these third-party games, I'm back to my PS4. But yeah, there was like a big stretch from, I guess, April through August where I didn't play a home console game. Mm-hmm. But Danganronpa obviously is available on PS4 and it's in 4K. It looks incredible. But those games to me are portable. I played the first 2 on portable. They're now on PS4 and they look great. But man, these games are just so perfect for a plane because I think they are weird as hell. They are way weirder than you can possibly imagine. But I am such a sucker for like murder mystery stuff. And the class trials are so fun. The mini games are better. These games, like, they're a hard sell because they're very strange.
Bears in it.
They're worth it.
Did you ever see Murder on the Orient Express?
Yeah, I did see Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah.
Well, that makes someone.
Did you ever see Mordor on the Orient Express?
Well,
Speaking of October.
Hell yeah. In October, we got October should have just been called like. It should have been called 2014 Part 2.
Yeah.
We got Middle Earth: Shadow of War.
Yep.
It was more of that.
Yep.
Mordor.
Yeah.
That's it. I put a few hours in that game, and I remembered how much I loved Shadow of Mordor, and then I forgot. Like, I haven't gone back to it at all.
It's also totally one of those games where I put like 15 hours in over a weekend, had a great time. Everyone was yelling at it about microtransactions. I'm like, all right, I'm gone. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they didn't really pan out to be that much of a threat.
No.
Yeah.
As is often the case. I mean, I think it's justified when people scream about this stuff a lot, but with Mordor, the loot box stuff didn't really become a thing that anyone really had to worry about.
No.
Well, it's one of those games that they're gradually adding like little sprinklings of updates to here and there and changing stuff. I think they added like a Coliseum mode for like your orcs or whatever. But
you can go to college now in the game.
Yeah, it's great.
Send your orc through secondary school.
Shadow of higher education. No, like it's weird. I think the first game benefited so much from sort of just the element of surprise. I think we had really like low expectations for it, and it came out. It was like this incredible like hybrid of, you know, the best parts of Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, but with this like Arkham combat system, and then the Nemesis system on top of that. And this game, I mean, again, it had its work cut out for it, and I think it really doubled down on the stuff that didn't necessarily impress me about the first game. I like the first game because because of the world and exploring it and having fun, and they were like, we're gonna double down on systems.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like all about getting like better loot and like runes and, you know, creating this army, and that's cool, but that was never my.
Also a very sexy spider. Shout out to Shelob.
I did not like. I heard Shelob was in it, and then you find out she's a woman, and I think it's great that there are more women in games. But where's the spider?
There should be more spiders in games.
The SJWs are constantly turning women into spiders.
I don't like it. And then we got the
Speaking of turning women into spiders, the Evil Within 2.
Hell yeah.
2. Yeah, another one of like Bethesda had an incredible year.
I got to go back and finish this game. I got sidetracked with a bunch of crap, but damn, this game is really cool.
Yeah, and especially for everyone worried that single-player games are dead. They're not. Bethesda's proving that with Prey and Death of the Outsider and Evil Within 2, and as we're going to talk about in a little bit, Wolfenstein.
Yep. Yeah, Evil Within, it's
4 back-to-back sales juggernauts.
I barely remember the first game. Like, that's one of those games that was just a flash in the pan for me. But I had fun. We played the first hour or so of this for a Let's Play, and I do want to get into it. But, man, October started that month where I just didn't have time to play everything. Like, we just ran out of time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I feel bad that there's a bunch of stuff on this list that I haven't played, but at the same time, I don't know, I sunk a ton of time into other games. You know?
Yeah.
I really like this game. I feel like a lot of the stuff it does that's familiar almost feels like a fever dream of remembering the first game. So it's got this sort of like icky comfort to it where you're like, oh, I know this system, but like it's like a movie I watched on a sick day.
Yeah.
You know, like it just feels gross. It's a very gross, wet, horrifying game, but also incredibly satisfying in the way you level up your character and uncover secrets and get better at combat. Like you like actively feel your character improving in the way he interacts with the world and the way your weapons interact with the world. And the sort of like freak out value of the character design of this game, like when you start to see like that weird man that's just like two men glued together hips. They start flop. It looks like, you know, Linda Blair coming down the steps or something. You're like, what is that? And you just dump shotgun shells into it until you can't see. Like, that's what I play video games for, you know?
Especially horror games.
Well, it's fascinating because the first Evil Within was sort of a spiritual successor to the original Resident Evils. Shinji Mikami doing that. And they were like, we're going to let him do survival horror the old-fashioned way. And then meanwhile, Capcom just comes out and they're like, hi, RE7, like top of the year. And then
Mikami didn't even direct this one. So it's like, it's a fascinating direction for that.
And I feel like it never seemed to really kind of have a strong identity.
I think you're right that Resident Evil 7 kind of beat its own game this year. Yeah.
Well, it's also, I mean, I feel like, and we talked about this a lot on the show this year, but the Evil Within 2 didn't really have a presence at a lot of shows. It didn't have a big advertising budget. I remember when, I think it was Kotaku even did an article like a month before the game came out. They're like, hey, is this game still coming out? Like, is this?
Well, and that's Bethesda, you know, with Fallout 4, they showed that they can announce a game and have it out 6 months later. Yeah. And that was industry defining. And I think, you know, coming off of like Watch Dogs getting announced a year and a half before
Final Fantasy
15, like it was exciting when Fallout 4 did it, but not every game can do it. And I think for Evil Within and Wolfenstein, you saw the flip side of that, which is that it is a lot harder to make a game sell millions of copies in a busy fall review season.
They're kind of sleeper hits.
The difference between Fallout and, you know, Wolfenstein and Evil Within, like Fallout is it's a lot of people's favorite series. Like,
you could do that with Fallout and Elder Scrolls. You can't do that with most
other
series.
Yeah.
Well, I think specifically because like you're looking at like 2 10 to 15 hour single player story driven games that really can't be played through a bunch of times unless you're like truly hardcore about it. Whereas Fallout is the kind of game where every single person at this table could play completely differently for 200 hours each, not see
except
or do
for
the
me
same
who
thing.
fell through the world 10 hours into Fallout 4.
Yeah,
and
That was canonical. That was
That's
canonical.
why they call it Fallout. Sometimes you fall out.
Yeah,
of
it's
the
not
game.
called Stand On.
Yeah. Then of course we got Assassin's Creed Origins.
That was whatever, October 27th was that day that we got AC and we got Wolfenstein and Mario.
Yeah.
And I am shocked to say Mario was my third favorite game of that day.
Wow.
Like, that is insane to me, though, going into it. And that's not a slight at Mario, that is a testament to how much I love AC Origins and Wolfenstein 2. And we see it in sales. Like, this is the best-selling Assassin's Creed in the first whatever month since.
I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, since Black Flag.
Did you read that story that somewhere between 800 and 900 people worked on this game?
It's insane.
900 people. Like
Probably on like 6 different continents.
Yeah.
Off just crazy.
Yeah, totally. And they're all on planes showing off screenshots of random people.
Such a good just return to form for this series. Especially fitting considering that it goes back as farther back in the series as we can.
It was a return to form, but it also threw the formula out the window.
Out the window.
And
it's an open world RPG.
So, okay, he just totally changed the way you play the game. That's kind of insane.
Yeah,
Totally
absolutely gorgeous. I mean, one of those games I put 35 hours in, and I'm excited to put another 35 in.
Yeah, I'm so happy this did well. Like, it would have really sucked if they were like, okay, we're listening, we're taking a year off, and it just bombed, or if just the sales slumped, and they were like, it didn't do what we wanted to.
Well, I think we all thought that would happen too, because it was like their year off was the time they put out that movie, which was not good, and we all kind of had franchise fatigue. And then that movie came out to sort of tail end it, and we were like, what happens from here? And I didn't like demoing this game. Like, I just did. I don't think it. I don't think it shows well in like small chunks at trade shows.
Very few open world RPGs do though.
No, definitely not. I mean, I didn't like Zelda the first time I played it at I think E3.
Well, there's also just like a lot.
No, I liked it. I was just like, this has some problems. Like, I didn't like the jump was.
You're also playing it on Wii U, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true.
I think there's a lot to take in, especially with something like Assassin's Creed, where when you're actually playing the game and they're like, we're going to go over here and kill this guy, you're like, I'm going to go over here and kill this guy. But if they're like, we're doing it, you're like, all right, well, I'm watching someone else play a game that I don't understand the system.
Sure.
Well, and they let you just play it. Like that was the whole problem. I think AC got so obsessed with like, you have to tail a guy for 20 minutes before you can finally kill him, or you have to kill him through this specific entrance. And it's Syndicate, and now especially with Origins, they just let you play the way you want to play.
Yeah, I feel like they took some cues from Far Cry, which it pretty much just turns you loose, and they're like, go have fun.
Yeah,
I'll be here if you need me.
That's totally. It's totally.
What it was like. Excuse me. Please stay with the tour group. Don't touch anything.
Yeah. Seriously.
Follow us. But yeah, I'm really happy about that. I mean that franchise turned 10 this year. That's huge. That's massive.
Yeah.
It's kind of been established for a while, but it's kind of cool that they've managed to like keep it fresh and keep it alive. It hasn't felt like totally
double digits
watered down. Then of course Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about this to death this year. It's my second favorite game after Persona of the year. I think it's just one of my favorite shooter campaigns literally ever. I think the story and the writing, the performances are absolute top tier. I think the mission design is great. I think all of this has a weird, entertaining amount of side quest stuff. And again, if you entered this year and told me that BJ Blazkowicz was going to be my favorite literal video game character of the year, I would have told you you're insane, but he was.
I like that I feel like they looked at Doom and they looked at Wolfenstein side by side, and they're like, which of these has more to say? And Doom is still like fun as hell, but it's also like, it feels like kind of a Mortal Kombat 9 where they're like, we're going to have fun with this. We're not going to take it too seriously. Whereas with Wolfenstein, they're like, hey, white supremacy is a thing. Let's say something.
Deal with this. Yeah.
With it,
Totally. Yeah.
Then we got GT Sport.
Yeah, I put this on here. None of us are big car fans, but I think this also, I just wanted to show this as Japan Studios had such a giant year, and obviously this is Polyphony, but with Knack and Everybody's Golf and Gravity Rush, and then
it felt like all of the studios in Japan kind of got a chance to shine. I mean, like in this game, like full disclosure, I will always pick an arcade racer over a sim. Like I will always lean towards Need for Speed, which was bad this year, but still, I always lean towards that over something like this. But God, it is insane what went into this game. Like it is crazy. They've been working on this for so long, and like the little things, like genuinely, like I sit next to Cisco, who's our big racing nerd here, and like I cannot believe like the way he talks about the love that went into the cars in this game. Like I can't believe how accurate everything is, and how like they did this thing called I think it's called Scapes, where you can take a solid background and like put a car in front of it and like affect like the lighting in the sunset and like affect the angle and even make it like motion, and it's like it literally looks like a photo. Like I don't understand how they can make a game look this good.
That's nuts.
It's crazy to me. I think it got hurt a little bit by Forza having such an incredible year and by some of the other racing games.
Yeah, I'm sure it also did fine though, because they're those car dudes who have those like expensive chairs in their rooms, and they're like, I need this. I need to
call them lazy boys.
Yeah.
Could you? Isn't it so weird that there was a famous chair called the Lazy Boy?
I think it's a little weird.
The ultimate relaxation simulator. Anyway, November we got Call of Duty World War II.
I still haven't finished the command. I need to finish that.
It's the first year in so long I haven't played
believe this is now the best-selling game of the year.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, no doubt. Right?
So it was number one
it became
on MPD. We'll talk about number 2 in a second, but number 1 this game's been out for a little over a month, and it already became the best-selling game of 2017.
And it's the first up year not the first, but it's the most dramatic up year Call of Duty has had in such a long time. Because for the longest time, Black Ops 2 has been the peak, and then Ghost was that low point, and they've had like little blips here and there. But this feels like the first time Call of Duty is kind of flexing its muscles as like, do not discount how many people still love this franchise.
It's still there. I mean, I think we thought little by little this would sort of like peter off in the same way a lot of other Activision franchises have, and games in general.
I mean, it is such an important example of, we talk about install base, we talk about like 70 million PS4s have been sold now, and that is why this is the best selling game. You know, like it took building the install base to that point for this franchise to really catch on. I think that anything this big, it's really hard watching that generational transition, and they stumbled out of the gate when, you know, Xbox One and PS4 launched, but by now, you know, it took them 6 years, but or 4 years, but by now they really are like back on top.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's hardcore casual fans. I don't know what you call the people who buy Call of Duty, but there's people who just that's what they buy. That's their thing. That's their jam.
That's their hobby. It's not video games. It's Call of Duty.
And it can't have hurt too much that this is a return to form for the series. Like they were like, hey,
back to World War II for the first time in almost 10 years.
Yeah,
I think it's a testament to console gaming doing as well as it is, that when you look at Fortnite and PUBG on PC and how unbelievably successful those games have been, there is still a console audience, and they will still buy millions and millions and millions of copies of a game. That's, you know, obviously it sells on PC as well, but like the main SKUs are console, and there's so many people playing this game on PS4.
Yeah. Speaking of shooters, we also got Star Wars Battlefront 2. And
what a ride.
Everyone loved it.
Oh, boy.
So we talked about this game a lot. I've had a tough time talking about this game on camera on IGN because I can't tell you what I like and don't like about it without getting called a shill or a garbage or all these other things. And I am definitely garbage. But no one's ever paid me to give a game a good review, because that's not how that works. This game was a disaster until people spoke up. And by disaster, I mean that the progression system was problematic in that it was directly assisted by people having the ability to buy randomized loot crates, which effectively gave you star cards that were higher level than the stuff you get for just playing normally. At the 0 hour, Bob Iger from Disney had a call with the head of the studio on this game, ripped out all the transactions, and what they launched was this incredibly gorgeous, incredibly fun Star Wars arcadey first-person shooting game with a really interesting campaign that had its own set of problems. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you had a really cool game that had a pretty crappy progression system, and still kind of does, but was really a ton of fun to play. And everyone ignored it, or so I thought. And then the NPD numbers came in, and we found out it was the second best-selling game of the month. So it sold drastically less than it did the first time around, but we're also seeing that The Last Jedi is making less money in opening weekend than Force Awakens. So I think there also is a bit of franchise fatigue to tie into.
I mean, less money than Force Awakens, but also the second biggest opening in movie history.
Yeah, in history. So they just added new content to this to tie into The Last Jedi stuff, which I've been playing, and I really like it. I think there's a lot to love in this game. I think there's a lot that's cumbersome, and I think it's going to grow and become better over time, like most online games and like most shooters do.
I jumped into it this weekend, and the crate map is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Having seen the movie now, I'm also glad I didn't go in there before I'd seen the movie. That
Seriously.
Do you loot? Do you loot on crate?
Loot crate?
Yeah.
No.
I get it.
Get out.
But yeah, like, I mean, I signed on there, and I don't really know exactly what happened. I don't know if this was a lot of kind of make good stuff or whatever, but it was like, you have 7 unopened crates. And I'm like, why? I didn't do anything.
That's the thing they did for the Last Jedi DLC, which is a really weird thing to do, because when they stripped all of the purchasable crates out of the progression system, people thought like the loot crates are gone. I'm like, no, they're still there. You just have to buy them with in-game credits, which you unlock for being good. But to celebrate their new DLC, they were like, here's 8 crates for everyone. So if you've never played that game, or you're playing it for the first time in a while, you're greeted with like this screen where you're just opening up a bunch of crates, which kind of like, I don't know, brings back the pretty bad memories about what that game was all about to begin with.
And that's the big test, right? Yeah. The big test is 2018 is the year when we'll see what the rest of the content seasons look like, and we'll see what the microtransactions are. Like, they've been very open; they're coming back. That will be the make or break for this.
Yeah,
this game is going to be totally worth the price of admission in like 4 months.
Yeah, and it'll be like $20 or $30.
Yeah,
and they'll have tons of stuff.
It was the same deal with, I think it was, I want to say it was like Black Friday. No, it wasn't. Black Friday. It was some big sale thing for the first one, and it was the Ultimate Edition. So it was all the DLC, the full season pass, and it was something like $10. And you're like, are you serious? You're gonna get like an entire like ultimate like season, like that's effectively 2 games. And
this has been my go-to like wake up, make a coffee, and shoot stormtroopers for 30 minutes before I go to work game. And I can't really talk about it because I'll get downvotes, but I'm still playing it and I kind of like it.
Yeah,
I think you're garbage.
It kind of burned me. I was hoping it would be more of a departure from the first one. It is very arcadey, which I find sort of almost like I get tired of it, I guess.
It's given me a new appreciation for the prequels, which I find incredibly surprising.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so stoked to jump in there when they've just patched in a bunch of heroes. Yeah. I mean, like I turned on my PS4, it was like, hey, you got like an 8 gig download for Battlefront. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's a lot of gigs for the game. What did you say?
I think it's just Phasma's suit is really
so shiny, so incredibly shiny.
The graphics. Anyway, back to graphics. Horizon Zero Dawn got Frozen Wilds DLC.
I literally haven't played this. I need to play this.
Yeah,
other additional expansion. I like the
best snow in games, hands down. On it.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Which a category we didn't add. I fought.
Covers up the grass.
I'm glad they did an expansion to it. Like this was also a solid reminder going into Game of the Year. It's like, oh yeah, like I feel like they needed that kind of bump up.
Yeah, I feel like these guys and Zelda did the same thing. Where we were sort of just like, hey, remember us?
Yeah, exactly.
Like not like we needed it because I did remember them, but they were like, hey, we're here.
And then December was just ports, basically. I mean, December we got Okami HD, we got Dead Rising 4. We did Let's Plays of both of those on the channel. I mean, like, Okami is gorgeous and, you know, everything you remember about it.
Yeah.
And then Dead Rising, it has kind of a cool mode that we played where you can unlock costumes for all the Capcom heroes. And if you hate Dead Rising, that mode's not going to suddenly make you love it. But I think it's cool to see that franchise back again.
I agree.
Yeah.
Didn't check that out. But yeah, I think the moral of the story here is that 2017 was a really good year for video games.
Awesome. Great year for PlayStation.
I think this was with typical sort of 3-year development cycles. This was the year that people were like, oh, what console are we making games for? Oh, PS4? Oh, well, I guess get to work on it.
I mean, it's insane, though, because I have this list of, in theory, 2018, and probably a couple of them are 2019 games, but games that are going to be PS4 exclusives, either first-party or second-party deals, and it's insane that, like, for as good as 2017 was, we didn't get those games we've been looking forward to for the last couple of E3s.
Right.
We didn't get Spider-Man and God of War and Detroit and Days Gone and Dreams and Concrete Genie and The Last of Us and Death Stranding.
Which, like, many of those had presences at PSX in the form of booths that just had TVs running their trailers.
Sure.
Like, still not even playable, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how 2018 shakes out and how many of those are actually 2018.
I mean, I would say Death Stranding and Last of Us are not.
Oh, no, yeah, 100%.
And also,
but I even mean Spider-Man, God of War, Days Gone, like Detroit. Like, those are games that, like, Detroit kind of narrowed the window at least, but, like, we just have nebulous 2018 dates for so many of these ambitious games.
And plus, on the hardware side, to recap real quick this year, we had price drops across almost all SKUs. We had a new remodeled PSVR that works well with HDR and 4K TVs. We got the VR aim controller. There was some interesting stuff that happened this year. We got those tiny new PS4 controllers for kids.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to talk about this since PSX, but PSX was, I would say, half a PSVR convention.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane how much was on the floor there. I think they had something like 70 games.
Yeah.
I got to play a bunch of them. It takes a minute to make games. I think a lot of the time companies are like, hey, I think we should wait and see how this is going to go. And in the same way that we're now starting to get that's kind of deluge of awesome games for the PS4, following it kind of being out for a few years and having like enough people out there owning it to be, worth investing in. I think we're going to start to get that with PSVR. It doesn't take 2 months to make a game. It takes years, So
yeah. I mean, I feel like PSX was like a really just awesome celebration that not only looked back on this year, but kind of made me look forward to a lot of things that are coming soon, which I think a great convention should do. But it's not like E3 where it's all just like 2 years from now we'll be doing this. Like there was a lot of like sort of like, man, this has been a great year. Let's celebrate it. Let's celebrate it with PlayStation fans. It was awesome seeing many of you.
Sony taking a victory lap as well as taking it alongside the fans who were there.
And seriously, thank you to everyone who came up to us. Like it is so cool seeing, our people. Like it's so cool having like everyone who listened to the show say anything. And thank you very much.
I say that to a bunch of people there, but it's the opposite of reading YouTube comments.
Yeah, totally.
Talk to a human being.
It's like a recharge.
Hey, I watch your show. And I'm like, thank you. If I piss you off sometimes, I'm sorry. Just thank you for.
And thank you for listening to the show all year. It's been a weird, fun, crazy ride, and I absolutely love making the show with you guys. And it's really awesome that we get to connect with an audience that's still there and still cares.
On that note, Beyond. just happy holidays to everybody. We hope you have like a wonderful, safe whatever it is you're doing in the snow or in the sun. Whatever.
Don't cover up. Don't like fill a rock with snow and throw it. That's bad.
Yeah.
How would you fill a rock with snow?
No,
you
fill
fill
snow with it. You mean put a rock inside?
Don't fill snow with rocks.
Don't make yellow snow either.
Just across the board. Don't listen to Marty at all.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Don't make the yellow snow.
Yeah.
Don't
Eat the yellow snow. Don't touch it. Just
Don't wheeze on the electric fence.
Where'd Peppers go?
I had him put down. He was being too much of a rascal, and so we had him. He's gotta go. So it was nice having a dog for those couple years. Anyway, thank you guys all for listening, watching, whatever it is. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/IGNBeyond. Go subscribe to that. If you want those notifications, you can click that little bell button, or you can just not, and then you don't get notifications.
Dong.
I kept getting emails from SodaStream. I don't know why. That's the machine I use to make seltzer in my home.
Somebody
I don't know why.
Somebody signed us up for like the horse emails, which was great for a minute.
That was me.
They won't go away.
That was me.
I love them. I don't want them anymore. We get 3 a day. There's not that much stuff to know about the horse.
I ordered a tactical vest from Amazon years ago, and I still get catalogs from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. Which
Really?
is a catalog full of knives. Anyway, thank you for watching, and that's the end of 2017 Beyond.
Yeah, we'll see you next year.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to our Facebook group too and the moderators. You guys are awesome.
Yes.
And to Smoky Mountain Knife Works.
Yeah. Presented by Smoky Mountain Knife
Another
Works.
great
Also,
year for
Pepper,
you guys.
Pepper is not actually dead.
He's not-
Finally,
he's
a
fine.
catalog that really
great.
cuts it.
And to the horse team that sends the emails.
I think it's seriously.
Beyond.
A catalog that really cuts it.